What's good, YouTube? It's your boy AyePeewee coming with a new video for y'all boys and girls. I know it's been a minute since I've uploaded on the channel. So if you guys don't know who I am, like I said, I'm AyePeewee. I've produced for Lil Durk, NBA Youngboy, Gucci Mane, Boosie, Lil Papa, Young Nays, Derez, Deshaun, and a bunch of more names, Blueface, and a bunch of different people. So today I will be showing you guys how I make this Babyface Ray type beat from scratch. I'm gonna be breaking it down. Basically, I'm gonna be showing you guys the loop and the sound selection, how I mixed it, and I'm gonna be breaking down the beat, how I did the drums and everything like that. And the loop that I'm using out of this video is out of my new loop kit called the Revenge Loop Kit. It will be down in the description if you guys want to check that out. But without further ado, we just gonna hop straight into it, and I'm gonna show you guys this breakdown. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do starting off this breakdown is I'm gonna play the loop for you guys. It's called Can't Remember. Like I said, it's out of my new loop kit if you guys want to go check it out. But here's the loop right here. Alright, so as you guys can tell, it has some Rhodes, some saxophone, some vocal chops. It gives that A1 since day one vibe basically, but in my own little flair, in my own little way. But the first instrument is kind of like a guitar. Like I said, we're in A minor, so the relative major to that is C natural. So I'm gonna show you guys the scale. So it's 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. So basically the scale, or the progression rather, is doing the 6 to the 4, and then I'm just doing little notes in between to give it the melody line and a bounce. And this is what the pattern sounds like right here. And on the processing for this, I just have some EQ, some reverb, and halftime. I just boosted up the highs a little bit, the mids, put the reverb on 1980s for the color, turn the mix to 32.4, turn the low cut up to take some of that density out of the reverb, and then put the mode on room, turn the decay down so it's not dispersing for longer. And that's just like a pretty simple basic reverb right there, like the go-to reverb. If you don't use Valhalla, I don't know what you're doing, I'm not gonna lie. But I took out the low end right here on this second EQ, and I got halftime on this second half right here. So I'm gonna show you guys what the halftime sounds like on this guitar. And yeah, that's what the halftime sounds like. I keep calling it a guitar, but honestly, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like a goddamn guitar. But for this second instrument, we got the LA custom coarse Rhodes out of Keyscape. I don't think I touched any of these knobs, to be honest with you guys. I don't know, but I think those are the default settings. And then right here, I just played the same chord progression. I just did a couple notes in between right before the second chord, and I strummed out both chords. So this is what it sounds like with the Rhodes. So real cool, real calm, and both of those together start off the loop and give you the Babyface Ray vibe automatically, especially with the halftime. So I'm gonna play it together real quick so you guys can hear what the Rhodes and the guitar sound like. Now, some people know this is common sense and some people don't know, but when you're finding sounds and you're trying to get your sound selection on point, you have to understand some sounds take up the mid frequency, some sounds take up the high frequencies, and some take up the low. So you really don't want to add too many sounds that are on the same frequency. You want to find maybe 2-3 sounds that are gonna work together in one frequency, then you move on to the higher frequencies, and then you want to move on to the lows. And it doesn't matter what order, but that's kind of where you want to do it. Like, you want to split your frequencies up with your sound selection. And for the bass line, all I did was add 2 basses out of contact, and it's the dub bass from Scarby Rickenbacker bass and the primal primacy from Scarby Rickenbacker bass, and I layered those 2 basses, and this is what it sounds like. So as you can see in the piano roll, that's the pattern right there. And for the processing on the bass line, we got a EQ right here, boosting some of the lows, rounding off some of the highs. Nothing too crazy, basic EQ. We got the default preset for RC20, the Vinyl 1 preset. And I just turned down the wobble, the distort, the digital, the space. I turned down the noise a little bit. I expanded on the low EQ and expanded on the high EQ. And because usually it comes down right here and right here, I think for the default preset, like, it just cuts off a little bit, so I just expanded both ends and then turned the tone knob down a little bit so it'll give it a darker, warmer feel because it's a bass line. And I added reverb. I didn't want to add too much reverb, but I wanted to give space on top of the bass line so it sound like it's kind of in a room or like an arena or something like that. So I turned the low cut up to take out the density so it's not muddy, and I put the color on 1970s so it's a little warmer than the other presets that they have on here. They got 1970s, 1980s, and the now preset. The now preset is more polished. The 1980s is more polished than the 1970s, but it's a mix between the now preset and the 1970s. But I usually go for the 1980s preset because it's a mix in between, but like I said, I wanted a warmer feel on the bass line, so it's on 1970s. And then the mode, I got it on room, and then I don't think I touched any other things besides that. And the mix knob is on 11.6, so it's not oversaturating the bass line. And I added a little bit of delay so it can ring out. I put the time knob out right there, and then I always put it on ping pong. And then I just lowered down the mix level right here so it's not ringing out forever. And that's pretty much the processing on the bass. And for the next instrument, I got this splice sample. It's a saxophone that you guys heard in the loop. Alright, so basically for the processing on the saxophone is pretty simple. I got an EQ, boosting up the high end and taking out some of the mids and taking out the low end. And for the vintage verb, I got Bright Hall 1980s, boosted up some of the low cut to 390 hertz, took down the decay to 2.21 seconds, and then I got the mix on 30.8, real simple. Then I got the basic vintage chorus preset, take the mix level down to 62%, real basic. Time knob for the delay is in the middle, ping pong on the feedback mode, and that basically just makes the delay ping pong back and forth with panning. And turn the mix level down to 2% so it doesn't ring out too long. And then for the imager, I have no idea what preset I use because it doesn't tell me and I can't remember, but usually I use something like enhanced spaced, gentle width, modern width, multi-band depth, narrow the image, spacious high end, or subtle detail. And I probably use something like modern width or gentle width with the spaces high end, but I don't even know which ones I used. I ain't gonna lie, but I put 2 imagers on there so you guys can play around with the imagers to see what they do. Best way I would do it is with headphones rather than with the speakers, because an imager is basically like giving the sound like a little more detail, like, or making it more spaced out of how you want it to fit in the record. Like, if something is like flat sounding and needs to be more felt, like, you know, you want to feel it more in your ears. Like, if y'all get what I'm saying, like, you know how you feel something like through the mix. Like, if I wanted to add multi-band depth, it'll make me feel it a little bit more. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory. It gives it the depth, the girth that you're looking for in the mix, basically. But then I added a plate, and I just turned down the mix level down to 10.8. I got the mode on brass. I boosted up some of the higher frequencies over here in the EQ. Other than that, I don't think I did anything. And that's the saxophone right there for the processing. Alright, so for the next instrument, we have a pad out of Analog Lab called the TMH pad. And this is the chords right here. It's the same chord progression, different voicings of the chords. So I'm gonna play this for you guys so you guys can hear the pad by itself real quick. So, you know, it's gonna give it that body with the Rhodes and the guitar added on top of that. It's just gonna give it that under layer of just adding the ambience that it needs. And I just added Valhalla vintage verb right here. I got coarse space, 1980s on the color, turned up the low cut, left the decay where it's at, and then I turned the mix knob down to 24.8% with the EQ on top of that, which is boosting the high end and just boosting some of the low end right there, giving it a little bit of body. And yeah, that's pretty much what that pad is, real basic. And then I have vocal chops from Splice 2. So on the vocal chops processing, we got Valhalla vintage verb. You guys can look at that real quick. Low cut turned up to 1070 hertz, and then plate mode, color on 1980s. Basic stuff, y'all. Like, it's nothing too complicated. I really just turned the low cut up and mess with the decay, and then the mix knob most of the time, and change between the modes and colors. Other than that, I really don't touch any of these other knobs. I might mess with the high cut sometimes, but other than that, I pretty much keep it simple. Then I added Pan Man, put the width all the way up, smoothing all the way up, and then mess with the rate, and then put the LFO, or not the LFO, I just put the direction of the panning going left to right. And usually I do the same thing on my Pan Man every single time. Like, it always looks like this usually. And then I turn the mix level down always. And then depending on how hard I want it to pan left and right is depending on how hard I'm gonna turn down the mix level, basically. And then EQ, boosting up the mids, boosting up some of the highs. I got an imager. And for the vocals, I probably use Spacious high end most likely. Like, that's probably what I'm gonna use mostly every time when I'm throwing an imager on there. Other than that, if it needs something else like width or something like that, I'll add it. But usually I just want the vocals to play how they are and then have the Spacious high end. So like I said, I just throw on the imager to give it that Spacious high end with the preset. And this is what the vocal chops sound like. So by the time you get everything to this point, it's starting to sound really good. I'm gonna leave out the saxophone and just let the vocals play with everything else real fast. So at this point, you can tell the loop is pretty much done, but I wanted to add another vocal chop to another half. So if you guys are stuck when you're making your loops and you're trying to figure out what to add, just do sections. Like, don't stick to the same 8 or 16 bars. Give yourself 8, another 8, another 8, and another 8. Like, give yourself sections for the verse, the hook, the breakdown. Give yourself that so you can have like the storytelling vibes going on while you're making your production, because having the same thing repeat over and over and over again gets stale after a while. So I added this second vocal chop out of Splice, and this is what it sounds like. So for the processing on this second vocal chop, I got Valhalla vintage verb, and I dipped it down to 47.6% on the mix. Turn the low cut up. I think I messed with the high cut a little bit. Turn the decay down a little bit. I put the mode on dirty plate. To find what mode I'm usually gonna use, I just turn the mix knob all the way up and then go through and find what mode I'm gonna use. So I put on dirty plate, and then I put the color on 1980s. Also, while I'm picking my mode, you don't have to use headphones, but it just sounds better. Like, you know, it just sounds better when you're mixing in your headphones and then you go to your speakers afterwards and start touching things up. So that's a good tip to do while you're mixing. And then I got an EQ, taking out a lot of the lows and then boosting a little bit on the high end. I got delay. I usually put the time knob in the middle, and then, like I said, I always put it on ping pong. Turn the mix level down. Then the imager, probably use spaces high end, and then the pan man, go to preset and just turn down the mix level. So this is the full loop together one more time so you guys can hear everything. And this is the loop called Can't Remember, and then I'm gonna show you guys the drums. Alright, so the final product of the loop sounds like this all together. And another thing I did on top of this loop, if you can hear it closely enough, I added little rain sound effects to give it more of a cinematic vibe. So if you want to add textures to your loops to help give it more of like a visualization, basically, like you're just visualizing what you're hearing. Like, I want it to sound like you're in the rain, you're listening to this loop. It's sad, it's dark, it got the saxophone going, so that's what I did. But yeah, that's pretty much the loop right there, the loop breakdown. And now we're gonna move on to the drums. Alright, so now we're on the drum section. I'm gonna show you guys the beat real fast, and then I'm gonna go through, show you how I made everything, and then show you how I mixed it and arranged it. But this is the beat right here. Alright, so as you can tell, it's pretty simple, straight to the point. It's nothing too crazy. We got some perks, you know, you got the little toms and stuff like that, hard hitting 808, whatever. So basically the arrangement, for the intro, I wanted the vocal chops to be shorter and not have these longer vocal chops. I'm gonna play on them. Alright, so these vocal chops are on the second hook and the third hook and not on the first hook, because the first hook, sometimes the artist might start with their verse instead of the hook. So I wanted to, you know, I don't want to add everything in hard on the verse, like especially if the beat drops right here. I don't want everything to be at the first part of the beat. I want it to slowly come in later. That's why I added the saxophone in the middle of the verse and then the longer vocal chops, and then it goes on. But for the intro, we got the shorter vocals right here, basically bringing in the vibe with the bass line, which is important because I didn't want to add the saxophone in because, like I said, I didn't want to do too much as the intro comes in. So the vocal chops, the shorter vocal chops, are just the easy way to give you something that catches your ear off rip, but it's not too much. And then the bass line I usually do first, like I always put in the intro if I don't have the drums usually coming straight in, and especially if it's only just 8 bars. But if it's 16 bars, I'll have the first half without the bass line, and then the second half with the bass line, and then the drums drop, or you know, just arrange it how you want. But on this, like I said, I just wanted shorter vocal chops to give you something to hear that'll catch your ear off rip, but not too much. And then the bass line is an important part of the melody that gives it the fullness, but doesn't feel like it's too much. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's what I want the intro to be. It gives it fullness but not feel like it's too much, basically. But for the drums, pretty simple 808 pattern. It's a shorter 808 for the first 8 bars of the hook, and then I use the longer spins, and then it goes back to the shorter spins on the first part of the verse. So here's what the 808 sounds like right here. So you guys get the point, pretty simple. And then for the kick, I just put the kick on the 1. Pretty simple. And then classic Detroit snare. And then the hi-hats. Got a snap. So it's basically pretty simple. Got the vibe breaking down on the hook because I don't want it to be so repetitive with the snare going all the way through. That's why I added the snap. Then we got this Metro Boomin tom or perk or whatever you want to call it with some reverb on it. And for the reverb, all I did was put it on 1980s mode on Sanctuary, 27.6 on the mix, and I didn't touch anything else. But I like using the mode Sanctuary because it makes the tom sound best. Like I've tried other ones, and you can use other ones obviously, but like I feel like the Sanctuary mode on like tom drums just sounds the best to me because it sounds like you're in an arena or like a church or something like that, basically. But this is what the tom sounds like. It's basically a transition point. And I panned the toms to my right. So when I'm panning drums, I pan it like as if I were sitting at a drum set. So like the snare, if I'm sitting at a drum set, the kick drum is usually right in the middle, you know what I'm saying? And the snare is slightly to the left, like in between your legs, and you got the hi-hat to your left. And then the toms, you know, going around you basically. So the tom drums will be on my right side, the snare will be on my left a little bit, and then, you know, the hi-hat slightly to the left. I'm not panning them hard. And then I do more of my harder pannings on my perks. So like if I have an open hi-hat, I'm usually gonna pan that a little bit more to the left, more than my regular hi-hat. And for like tambourines and stuff like that, I'll usually pan that to the right side. So if I were at a drum set or whatever and I had a tambourine attached to something or whatever, like, you know, perks that I could play extra on the drum kit, then, you know, I for me personally, I would set that up to my right side as I'm playing. So that's just my mindset of how I pan my drums. Like I move, you know, I'm playing right-handed drums, I'm gonna have my hi-hats to the left a little bit, the snare to the left, then the toms go around me on the drum set, then I got my perks, my cymbals, you feel what I'm saying? Like I just imagine myself at the drum set and pan it that way to give it more of that feel. And then it also gives you space in your mix, basically. Like it doesn't have everything just stacked in the middle of the mix, you feel what I'm saying? And you can spread it out a little bit and it gives it a better sound while you're mixing. But with panning, you definitely want to wear headphones while you're panning. And then as far as just mixing, I have a mixing tutorial already out, so you guys can go watch that. I'll leave that in the video cards. But it's really just leveling. And then as far as EQs and reverbs and all that, I just boost stuff and take certain frequencies out. Like, I don't really do too much. Like, this is on the hi-hat, and this is on the open hi-hat, you know, just basic reverb, basic EQ, nothing too crazy. Like, I don't really do anything special with my drums. I just level out and then throw my little mixer presets on there, which is just EQs and reverbs. But and then as far as everything else, it's just extra perks. So I'm gonna play the extra perks with the snare. So those are basically the extra perks right there. Nothing too crazy. Got some open hi-hats, some triangles playing on the breakdown right here. I don't know why I said some triangles, nigga. It's one triangle. But yeah, that's pretty much it right there. Like, this, the whole beat is, it's nothing complex, nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, but I pretty much just wanted to give y'all some quick tips on how to make a babyface Ray type beat. Again, this loop is in my loop kit. If you guys haven't copped the loop kit, it's 25 loops for $30. It's called the Revenge Loop Kit. It's in the description if you guys want to check that out. My drum kit's in there. It's super drum kit. It has 2.2 gigabytes worth of sounds. It has MIDI in there, mixer presets, vocal chops. It has literally everything you need. Perks for days, 808s, all the essential sounds that you need as a trap producer. And yeah, all my other kits are in there. I have another drum kit called the Euphoria drum kit. I have a bunch of stuff, so y'all check that out, and leave a like, comment, subscribe on the video, and that's pretty much the end of the video.